Hi y'all, welcome to Criminally Creative, a channel about my various creative endeavors. My name is Susan. You can find me on Ravelry as Legal Eagle and on Instagram as Criminally Creative Podcast. This is episode 26B, which is going to be a WIP parade of all of my knitting and cross-stitch projects, and also some talk about my plans for 2022. Excuse me, I gave the disclaimer in episode 26A that the weather in North Carolina has been very warm, and then it gets cold and then it gets warm, and my sinuses are not liking it. So I apologize for any coughing or clearing of the throat that happens in this episode. So anyway, I thought I would go through and just show you everything I have on the needles, everything I'm stitching on, and also talk a little bit about my plans for 2022. I will, as usual, I will start with the knitting and then I'll do the cross stitch, but I will put a timestamp below. So if you're not interested in the knitting, want to skip to the cross stitch, you can, or vice versa. Anyway, so let's get started with the knitting. And I'm going to go, this is in no particular order other than I'm doing anything that is not a blanket first, and then I'm doing the blankets. So the first thing I'm going to show you is my zigzag scarf. This is something that I just started this year sometime and has not received a lot of work. I will say all of my knitting projects have a project page on Ravelry. Like I said, I'm Legal Eagle on Ravelry. If you want more information on something I don't mention, like about the yarn or about what size needle I'm using or any of that should be there. If it's not, feel free to message me on Ravelry, email me at criminallycreativepodcast@gmail.com. I think it's Criminally Creative Podcast. It might just be Criminally Creative. It's down below. Or DM me on Instagram, whatever. So anyway, this is in a bag by Silver Shed USA on Etsy. I think that's right. Or is it Bags by Awesome Granny? No, sorry. Bags by Awesome Granny. Library bag. This is the zigzag scarf, and I'm doing this in two colors of Lang Yarns DePinto. And basically two different colorways. And so one's got more blue, one's got more green. And then you alternate the colorways, you know, every other row, every garter ridge row. So this is a scarf. And it's just a easy project to work on that's somewhat mindless. You do have to do a decrease and a increase every few stitches, but it goes in routine. And my yarn, there we go. My yarn just got caught in my zipper. So that is the zigzag scarf by Christy Cam, K-A-M-M. And I'm doing that on US 3.25 millimeter needles. Next project is a bounce blanket by Tin Can Knits. I do this pattern regularly. It's my go-to pattern for baby blankets. And I am making this out of Universal Yarn Cotton Supreme on US 7's 4.5 millimeter needles. That's as far as I've gotten. I haven't worked on this in a while, but that is all four colors. Well, five. Light gray for the in-between, and then the purple, green, blue, and pink colorway. I need to get to work on that because I think I have a baby that will need to go to in the spring. Okay, sorry, I had to answer a phone call, so I'm not sure exactly where I was. So the next three projects I'm going to show you are sweaters. I am actually putting all three of them on hiatus until next fall, where I will make an assessment about them. Without going into a lot of detail, I'm trying to lose some weight, and I don't want to knit sweaters that are going to be too big for me. So we will see next fall if I've been successful in that regard, or if I haven't, I can keep right on going with them. So one of them actually could be easily adaptable. The other two would probably have to be ripped out and restarted if I am successful in losing some weight. So anyway, the first one is the Earnest Cardigan by Hohi Locatelli. I am knitting this out of Miss Bab's Yummy 2-ply. And it is I think I said it's the Earnest cardigan. That color is kind of light showing. It's actually a little darker than that. But it is a lot of moss stitch, which is why I don't want to knit a whole sweater if it's going to be too big for me. So it's got a nice cable, and then down the back it has a nice cable pattern as well. So, so that is sweater number 1. Oh, and I have this. What did I didn't show you. My bounce blanket is in a bucket bag by Cottontail. I think she's Cottontail VA on Instagram, and I'm not sure. Cottontail Farm VA on Etsy. I'm not sure about that. And my Earnest cardigan is in a Joji Locatelli box tote bag. My favorite bag of hers that I have too many of. The next sweater is in a tote bag by Jody Brown from the Grocery Girls. Mrs. Brown's Bags is her Etsy name. This is the Musa, M-O-U-S-A, Mousa, I think it's Musa sweater by Marie Wallen. It is a colorwork sweater using Jameson's of Shetland. And this is from one of her books. So that's as far as I haven't worked on this in a long time. It's got a split hem, so the pattern for this is written flat, but I'm not doing colorwork flat. Sorry, it's written flat and seamed, so I have converted it to knit in the round. So I have a steek where the split hem will be, and then that edging will go up there. So, and again, that one is being put on hiatus until the fall, and we will see where it needs to be size-wise. And then the last one is the Thornbush sweater by Romy Hill. And this is actually kind of it's a cardigan, but it's kind of a vest-like cardigan. It's a very open, flowy thing. This is the one that actually, it started from the back center. So, trying to get it right side up. It's actually started, yeah, there it goes. So this is the back center piece. And then the rest of it is knit. I'm trying to figure out how to show that. You can see the rest of it is knit like this. So it's all, here, let me see if I can open it. So it's all, there's bunched on the needle, so you may not be able to tell. So you see that back piece hanging off. So that little center part's only in the back. This is the front half, which is where the neckline would be. So you're basically knitting the whole front and back all at once, working from here out. So this one, obviously I haven't gotten, it actually has got to be wider than that, even if I do lose weight. So I may be able to adjust this one from where it is, but I need to know how wide to make it. So that one will also go on hiatus. That is being knit in Hypothesis yarns in like 5 different colorways and kind of like a fade. And again, all those details are on my Ravelry page. Starting with the blankets, this is my habitation throw, and all these blankets are made from scraps and leftovers of fingering weight yarn, mostly fingering weight. There's one exception that has some DK in it, but this is habitation throw. It's a pattern by Helen Stewart. I'm doing this on US 5s, 3.75 millimeters. It's you do it like a dishcloth, start at the corner and increase, and it's got eyelet row every 10 rows. And when I get it wide enough, I'll start decreasing. So this one will probably be finished maybe sometime in 2022. It will, obviously, it's smaller, so it will just be a lap blanket, and it's not as long a term project as the rest of the blankets I'm going to show you. So all of these blankets I'm going to show you are long-term scrap projects. I have a picture from January 5th of 2021 that I took of each one. Excuse me. that I will insert as I talk about them. And then I will try to show you in person kind of where they are, but then I will also do a side-by-side picture of where it was January 5th and where it is now in here. So the first one is what I call my sock yarn blanket. The pattern that I'm using, there's several of these patterns, different minor variations on how to do the miter square, but it's a miter square pattern. The pattern I'm modeled off of is Blanky by Shelley Kang. And I have this in just a big tote bag. I actually have a whole nother tote bag that holds the scrap yarn for it. Trying to find, don't want my needles to come out. I actually, for this one, have a set of signature, short, straight signatures. I do this in US 1, 2.25 millimeter. So this is just a miter square blanket, 31 stitches per square. Sorry, I had to think for a second. And it is ginormous. So I'm trying to find an end so I can kind of show you. It is, so right now that is how tall it is right now. So this is the bottom. This is the top of it at the moment. So obviously it has a ways to go. And then it is probably, I don't know how wide. I basically made it so it is, it will lay across the top of a queen size bed, but not hang over. So, and that again is a long-term project. I don't know how long, whenever I get it to where I'm happy with it, I guess. Or I get bored with it and decide it's going to be lap size or something. I don't know. And then sorry, I keep reaching down. These bags are too big to sit on the little thing I had over here to my right. Again, in just another big tote bag. All of these are in big tote bags of no real designation because they're just big. A couple years ago, I decided I had a lot of self-striping yarn left over, and the size squares that are on the blanket I just showed you are not big enough to go through a whole repeat of a self-striping yarn. And I had added a couple of bigger squares to that one with self-striping, but then I decided I had enough self-striping because most of the time my socks that I knit are self-striping, that I wanted to do a self-striping blanket, a mitered square blanket with self-striping yarns only. And I started with Desert Vista Dye Works because I had done a couple years of the Desert Vista Dye Works socks a month. But then I had some other self-striping yarns. So I've got two pieces right now. One is Desert Vista Dye Works only. And one is anything that's not Desert Vista Dye Works. At some point, the two pieces will get joined, but I don't know when that will be. Anyway, so the first one, let's see which one comes out first. This is the non-Desert Vista Dye Works piece. And this is where it was January 5th, 2021. And here is where it is now. I'm not sure how many squares I've added to this year. I had a separate WIP Go board for blankets this year, and so I worked on it a few times, and then this is the Desert Vista Dye Works piece, and this is where it was January 5th. And I haven't put as many pieces on this year because I didn't have as many Desert Vista Dye Works scraps this year because I wasn't doing the thing. So I am planning for 2022 to at least start the year doing the Desert Vista Dye Works socks every month. So that one should get at least 12 more squares added to it in 2022. And I do that using the same pattern I used for the first sock blanket. I just do it with 71 stitches per square instead of the 31 stitches per square on the smaller one. And I also use US 1 2.25 millimeter needles. And then at one point, I decided I had sock scraps that weren't big enough to even make one of the mitered squares in the first blanket. And so I started what I just call my sock scrap blanket. And this is not really a pattern. I started, let me get it the right way. I started with a 25-inch strip. Oh, that's the back side of it. 25-inch strip, 25 stitch strip, not inch, 25 stitch strip that I just knit till it got to a length I liked. And then I used the instructions from one of Frankie Brown's blankets. I think it was the 10-stitch zigzag blanket I used, or one of her 10-stitch blankets, to join. And I did the next strip only 15 stitches wide. And now I've started, and then I did another strip that's 25 stitches wide. And I have just started up in here that you can't even see another 15 stitch. So I'm just going to alternate 25 stitches and 15 stitches, and this will just literally be a scrappy blanket. And if I haven't already, I'll post a picture of where this was January 5th, 2021. And so that one gets, after I've gone through scraps with all of my blankets, when I have something that is, you know, a couple yards left or whatever, that gets thrown into that blanket. So that one gets yarn when I feel like it, basically. My northeasterly blanket, I'm trying to figure out which bag it's in. I think it's this one. Northeasterly is a pattern by Skananigans. I do this on US 4 3.5 millimeter needles. This one is a combination of DK weight leftovers and fingering weight held double. So this is the only one that does not have, that has got some DK weight in it. And this is, like I said, it's northeasterly, which is a pattern that kind of has this arrow thing. A picture of where it was January 5th, 2021. And trying to find the bottom and the top. So right now, only one of these, I got needles falling out. One of these rows, this one right here in the middle where my fingers are, is DK. The rest of it is fingering weight held double. And that's where I am right now on that strip. And then I've got these 4 done. I think I got pretty much one whole strip of this done this year, and the start of that new strip. So that was, oh, that's what fell off. Hold on. Sorry. These are kind of unwieldy to move around, but I don't want to leave them out laying around because since I am out in the dining room, my cat is out here, over here, sitting on the floor watching me, trying to figure out what I'm doing. And she is a yarn eater, so if there's string out and she spots it, she will chew on it. And then the last scrap blanket is what I call Granny Said to Use Your Scraps Too, because I started one of these in fingering weight yarn, just held single, and as it got bigger, I just didn't like it. So I bound it off and gave it to one of my nieces who was younger at the time as like a, no, I gave it to my granddaughter as like my oldest granddaughter's like a doll blanket or something. Anyway, so I started again, same concept. I want a ball of yarn, except I'm holding fingering weight double and I'm like marling it. So it's basically a giant granny square. And here is a picture of what it looked like January 5th, 2021. And this one, at least in my mind, has gotten much bigger. And I'm not going to try to hold the entire thing up because well, actually, it does look kind of different because not all the yarns go all the way around. So this I use when after I've made a mitered square on my sock blanket or a striped miter square. If there's a decent amount of yarn left over, I will decide either, if it's not a whole lot, it will go into the northeasterly blanket. If it's a lot, it will sometimes maybe go partially in the northeasterly and then into this or just into this. This is also a good way to use some of my leftover self-striping after I've done the stripe miter, because basically I'm holding two yarns, marling with whatever it's being held with, but when one yarn finishes, I just add another yarn. So you might, so one skein may be held with two different yarns, which gives you different effects. So, and I am doing the like no hole granny square, where you don't do the chains between the double crochets and you double crochet into every one of the row below. I got to remember to pick up that yarn down there. So anyway, so that is all my knitting WIPs. And I wanted to show you one project that I'm going to cast on early in January. I'm going to do a 2022 temperature cowl. I had done temperature blankets in the past, but I'm also going to be doing a temperature cross stitch, which I'll show you a little bit later. And a friend of mine, Peggy, sent me this pattern for a cowl, which actually it's called the high-low temperature cowl by Victoria Myers. And it accounts for both the high and the low temperature for the day every year, which I've always wanted to kind of do with the blanket, but I couldn't figure out how to do without the blanket being even more ginormous than it was going to be already. So anyway, this uses corrugated rib so that you knit the high temperature stitches and the purl the low temperature for the day. So what I'm going to use, and I just realized there's no good way to show you this because I'm using my Advent kit from the Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For from 2020, which had a lot of like gradiated type colors. And so let's see if I can do this in any logical way. I've got a little thing to put strings on, but I haven't wound these yet. So basically I've got some oranges and red for the hotter temperatures. There's greens. And for some of so my temperature ranges are around 3 to 4 degrees. But in North Carolina, there's a lot of 60s, 70s, and 80s. All of my previous temperature blankets have had a lot of yarn for the 67s and 80s. Now I have also previously done one color for a whole 10-degree range. And so I have done more like 3 to 4 degree ranges in hopes, because the pattern calls for 20 gram minis, which is what these are. But for some of the temperatures in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I actually have 2 skeins that are close enough in color that, I mean, like this is 2 different greens, but if they're in 2 different locations in the cowl, like different times of the year, it's not going to be that noticeable. Same with that. For temperatures that I think are going to be, that might be more, might require more than 20 grams. So like these are my, this is my under 35 degrees, because quite honestly, it doesn't get below 35 degrees much in North Carolina. Did I say 35 or freezing? 35. And then the like 35 to 39 range, because there will be more low temperatures in that than under 35. Even our low temperatures are not often below freezing, except for a little bit of the year. And this is a, hopefully by now I've put a picture of the cowl in here, but it's just 100 stitches around. So hopefully that will work. There's a couple of yellows and golds, and I've got these in individual baggies because I haven't wound them yet, and they're not labeled for like colorway. So I've just got a little piece of paper in there for what degree it is, and as I use each color the first time, I will probably just hand wind these, and then I have this bag of ones that aren't assigned that if I run out of some other color scheme, totally I can use in. Because there were 24 mini skeins. There are 14, I have 14 like ranges of color. And I'm gonna, I will be putting, I'll show you this again later when I start this, but as I start, I'll put like one little strand of each color on there, so I'll have kind of a little color wheel. But anyway, so that is it for the knitting projects and knitting plans. Like I said, I'm doing the temperature cowl. I mentioned that I'm going to do the DVD socks every month, or at least I'm going to start out the year that way. We'll see. And I'm not going to be working on my sweaters. I'm going to do basically accessories for 2022, I think. And we'll see how that goes. There is a new Hoagie Locatelli shawl pattern that was in the interpretations book that I love. That's like some purples and a charcoal, and I have ordered the kit for that from Suburban Stitcher, which should be here sometime hopefully in January, so I will definitely be starting that. But anyway, so that's it for the knitting. Okay, time for the stitching. I'm sorry if I'm sweaty looking. I had to do a reset. Take all the knitting back to the craft room and haul out all the cross stitch. Excuse me. So for 2022, I am doing WIP Go. All of my current projects are on my WIP Go board, and I have set yearly goals for those projects that I don't necessarily have to get done the month the project is called. And as a matter of fact, if I wait till November or December to work on the projects that are called November or December, they will not get done. So my WIP Go goals are yearly goals, and the projects that are called each month will get a weekly focus each. So my plan, we'll see how it goes for 2022, is that during the weekdays, Monday through Friday, I will have a focus project for the week that will be not necessarily exclusively, but almost exclusively what I work on Monday through Friday. So the 2 WIP Go projects called each month will each get a week, a Monday through Friday in that month. And then I have a decision wheel that includes all of my projects, including the ones because the WIP Go boards are all of my projects, that will determine the other 2 projects that get a weekday focus that month, or 3 if there's 5 weeks. Excuse me. And if that means that WIP Go says I work on a O Feathers that month and the decision wheel says O Feathers, then O Feathers will actually get 2 weeks that month. And then weekends will be SWE, stitch which when you want. So if there's something I want to start or something that's calling to me, I can do that on the weekends. And again, that's not to say I can't do something different on a weekday, but my plan is to focus primarily on whatever that week's focus project is, Monday through Friday. Most days I get some stitching time in. Occasionally, sometimes I don't. And some days it's not a ton of stitching. So I didn't want to say 5 days or 10 days because some of these goals are bigger than that. And I just didn't. Anyway, we'll see how this works. It may get changed part of the way through the year. So anyway, as I go through all of my WIPs, I'm going to tell you, hopefully remember to tell you at least the year that I started it. Most of them got started in 2021. And to tell you my WIP Go goal for it. Just keep in mind that is a yearly goal. I didn't bring my WIP Go board in here. Hopefully we'll put a picture up of my WIP Go board if you just want to see it. And I will try to remember to tell you which 2 have been called for January. And the other thing is that may vary a little bit. Like this month, I'm playing Choose My WIP in Semi-Sane Stitchers. But like this week, the 2 choices I put up are my two WIP Go pieces. So one of them will get next week, Monday through Friday on it. And I hope to make that work and stick to that kind of schedule as I play the games and stuff, but we'll see. Anyway, so let's start. My first project is my oldest project, which is Treasure Hunt Bookshelf. I will tell you the basics about some of these, but I also have a link below to Google Drive to my stitching spreadsheet, which should tell you the fabric for each, the designer for each, at least the basics about floss, whether I did it called for, whether it's DMC, whatever, and my start date and all that stuff. So I may not tell you all those details. And I'm also going to try to remember to show you the bags. This is the brass button, koala bears. I need to go through and sort. Also, most of my projects have a card from S World Designs on Etsy. That, like, this is a 5-year card because this is a full coverage piece and I probably won't finish it in 5 years. I just mark, like, fill in on the days I work on it. I have other tracking sheets in my planner that I kind of track stitches and stuff like that. Again, also, I will try to remember to put up a picture. If I have a hard copy, I will hold up the hard copy. A lot of these I have in digital patterns, so for the digital ones, I will try to remember to put up a picture of what the finished object would look like. So this is Treasure Hunt Bookshelf, which is Heaven and Earth Designs. Amy Stewart is the artist, and this is probably the same as the last time you saw it, but that's where I am, top left corner. I'm doing that, I think it's 25 count Lugana. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see if I can keep these somewhat organized. Again, I started that in 2016. The other 2016 start that I have is Kingdom of Books. And I think, there we go. This is a Russian kit. And when I started this in 2016, I was just getting back in a cross stitch. So I am doing this on the Ada that it came with. And I am doing the background because at the time it just didn't occur to me to do a different fabric. So again, I haven't worked on this since earlier this year. So it probably is the same since the last time you saw it. I started in the middle. Sorry, that Ada's stiff. It doesn't want to go back in. Oh, and I put a project tracker card in there, but I apparently haven't filled it out, so I haven't worked on it since I got those cards. The next one is I started in 2017. This is Happily Ever After by the Frosted Pumpkin. This was a stitch along in 2017, and I started it in January 2017 and immediately did not keep up with it. I have done some with WIP Code this year. I've gotten 4 blocks completed, and I forgot to mention, so my WIP Go goal for both Treasure Hunt and Kingdom Books that I just showed you is 5,000 stitches in 2022. this is a pattern that does work in Pattern Keeper. So my goal for this one is 25% more, which should finish this second row and start some of the third row of that. This is also in a brass button bag with Beauty and the Beast, fairy tales. Sorry, I forgot to show you that Kingdom of Books is in a bag from Lynn X Stitches Creates, which is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I have some bleeding of red into white, which is not Lynn's fault, but the mail postal carrier left this outside in the rain, and the box got wet enough that it soaked through to that, but not a big deal. 2020 start. So 2016, I've mentioned before, I grew up cross-stitching, and then I didn't do it probably from about the mid-90s on for a while. About 2016, I thought, oh, I'm getting back into cross-stitch. I started Treasure Hunt, Kingdom of Books, a couple other projects that I've either finished or abandoned at this point. And I started Happily Ever After January 1 of 2017. And when that petered out, all the cross-stitching petered out again until I picked cross-stitch back up again in October of 2020. And at least this time it's lasted longer and gotten more expansive. So this is a project that I started in 2020 as a stitch along with X Stitch MD. This is Winter Wonderland. I'm stitching this on the Silk app. It's designed by Dorothy Conzi. And I have done across the top row, and I'm working underneath there. My goal for this for 2022 is 25% more. This is in a brass button, the other Grinch bag that I have, the one I got last year. Has Grinch on the inside too. And then Across Winter Lake. This is a Gecko Rouge kit. And I started this also in 2020. This is another full coverage piece, and my goal for it for 2022 is, oh, I do have a picture of this one. Hopefully I put up a picture of Winter Wonderland. I'm not going to say I'm putting a picture here. Hopefully I will remember to put pictures in for the ones I need to. So this is a Gecko Rouge kit, the artwork by Joe Grundy. It's called Across Winter Lake. And trying to find, I think that's the way it goes. It's hard to, you know, I'm just in scenery at this point, so that's all we got. And my goal for this for 2022 is another 5,000 stitches. I tried to set my goals, particularly on the full coverage pieces, to be a decent amount of stitches, and I hope to actually get more, but I didn't want to set my goal so big that I couldn't enjoy my stitching this year and felt like I had to work too hard on things. So this is my first project from 2021, and all the rest of these, except for the one I'm going to show you is my New Year, New Start, is going to be 2021. This is One Nation by Boggle Stitches. And this is also in a brass button bag with bee-skeps on it. That's just kind of gold on the inside. This is going to be a big piece. This, like I said, One Nation. This is so that's what I've done. It's going to be big. This is a 28 count fabric, I think. So that's part of it. But this is, I think the fabric is Weeks Ale, or maybe Picture This Plus Ale. It's Ale. I can't remember the dyer. Again, my spreadsheet's below if you need to know. This is a flag with all of the states' names in the order that they joined the Union. My goal for that for WIP Go 2022 is to finish page 1 and all of page 2, because I'm still on page 1. Next is Quarantine Cats. This is in a bag by, I think it's Allegra. I showed this a couple of episodes ago in haul. And I have put my Quarantine Cats in this. This is a full coverage piece from Heaven and Earth Designs. Bridget Ashwood is the artist. And that's where I am. You can see a little bit of the flower on the curtains. Again, my goal for that is 5,000 stitches because it's one of the full coverage pieces. I like this bag because it's got the other side where I have all my floss on the, and actually I'll show this. I do my floss, particularly on full coverages, and I do them in numerical order on these, and I draw the symbol, which is not as big a deal now that I have Pattern Keeper with the symbol. I have, obviously, full coverage calls for more. I keep one skein of each color on one of those, and then I have, in floss away bags, I have the extra skeins that I will need. I lost my little thing that goes on that, but I'll get it later. In floss away bags, I have the extra skeins that I will need for that, and they are in a like a scrapbook case like this, and I just add a new skein to those kit things when I need it. Let's see, so that was quarantine cats. Next, let's see. So I also use, as I said, I have a bunch of these Joji Locatelli bags. This is my navy one. And they're just the right width to hold projects. So I usually have one of these with the projects I'm actively working on right next to my stitching spot. Next one is the Tree of Magic. This is in a bag by I can't think of the name. Oh, wait a minute. I think nope. That's for the thing. I don't see a tag on it. I can't remember. I have another bag from her. When I get to it, hopefully I'll remember. This is Tree of Magic. This is the only pattern picture I have, and I haven't been able to really find a better one online. So this is by Barbara Anna, and this is one of the kits that is only available through Nick Moscow. So here's where I am, and my goal for WIP Go for this, my written goal is to finish all of the top 2 branches. So I've done all of that top branch and a lot of that one. There's still more to go on that one, and to do the other side of that. I really actually hope to get a little further than that, but I didn't really want to claim a whole nother branch. So we'll see. Next is Bayou Cat. This was actually Tree of Magic was the first of my May Mayhem starts last year. This was the second. This is Bayou Cat, which is from Al Forrest Embroidery. Looks like that. This is in another bag by, I think, the same person whose name will not come to me. Hopefully I will have found it by now and have put it across the screen on the last bag or this one. But I can't remember who it is. Anyway, so this is where we are on this. That is part of the tail. So that's like right in this, whoops, right in this area. It's driving me crazy trying to think of who makes these bags. I prefer the bigger bags, but some projects I like the little bit smaller bag. Next is O Feathers, which was my third May Mayhem start. This is a pattern by Rosewood Manor. And this is a pattern that was designed in sulky. And I am using the called for sulkies, 1 strand. Oops. There was a sulky pack for it. And Sorry, my magnets are sticking together. I actually started bottom left for this one because it was easier to figure out where to start by using one of the quarters of the border. And that is all of page 1, and I've started a little bit on page 2 and a little bit of the page above page 1. Or not page 1. That is all of page 6, and I've started a little bit gone a little bit this way and a little bit this way onto the other pages. So that bag is Lynn X Stitch Creates. This was one of her quarterly bags this year. I think maybe the summer. No, I don't remember which quarter it was, but it was one of her quarterly bags this year. Next is Dragonfly. It's Dragonfly 3, technically. This is a little kit with mostly specialty stitches that a friend of mine gave me. This was, I think, it was the 4th of my May Mayhem start. So I'd started, this past May Mayhem, I started a project every weekend, and there were 5 weekends in May. So, that is that. I didn't say for Bayou Cat and O Feathers, both my WIP Go goals is 2,000 stitches. On O Feathers, that will get me really close to finishing it, I think. So I might actually finish that, but we'll see. My goal for this one is to finish it in 2022. And it's, the yellow part is cross stitch. The light purple is what that other one is satin stitches. And that's as far as I've gotten. It has a couple more specialty stitches. This bag is blue on the back. In front has little retro elephants and cats inside. This is from Blueberry Quilts, I think is what it's called. She's actually in my hometown. So that's another nicely made bag. And then my last May Mayhem start last year was, and I have this one just in a scrapbook box at the moment because I need to reassess some of my bags and stuff and figure out where I want to put it. This is Snow Queen by Mirabilia. And I'm trying, oh, there it goes. I'm looking for my picture. The Snow Queen. And I haven't done a lot on this one. I started in the center. And I've just done that little bit of her dress. So my goal for that is 2,000 stitches for WIP Go 2022. Sorry if that was loud. Next is Christmas at Hawkrun Hollow. And I have largely only worked on this. I do the Zoom with Pam from Stitching in the Land of Good Enough. So most of the work on this has happened during the Zooms, which means it gets sporadic work. But, so I'm still on block 1. I am doing these with the DMC called for, although so far all the DMC called for. As I go through, I may make a few color adjustments. We'll see. Again, like I said, I'm still on block 1. My goal for WIP Go is to finish block 1 and do all of block 2. And I'm actually doing that on a 27 count Linda 1/1, which I haven't been saying for all those, but like I said, it's in my spreadsheet. But I wanted that to be not, that's a big chart. I didn't want it to be gigantic. Sorry, I heard something. It's my cat is over on the floor playing with the outdoor wreath that I laid there. Next is This is a bag by Carol Creative Carol Designs. Here it goes. And inside it's got this is Halloween Quaker by Lila's Studio. I think it's Lila's Studio. And I have not done a ton of this. There we go. Just started in top. I usually start in the top left corner unless I say otherwise. My goal for this is 2,000 stitches, which should, I think, get me about 25% done or so. Let's see. And then in another Hokey Dokey Telly bag, and I think that color was called like cranberry. Let's see. This is my bag from the Bestitch Me Halloween box this year. And I can't remember who makes these because I haven't ever bought directly from them. This is the Cryptid Stitch Along by the Witchy Stitcher. Doing this on 40 count. It's Fortnite Fabrics. It's one of my shades of gray from this year, but I don't remember the color name. So that's where I am. Finished the first one. I'm working on the second one. My goal for this year is to get through the 6th cryptid. Next is Winter Cabin. This is a Dimensions kit, Dimensions Gold kit. This was my birthday start this year. This is also one of my WIP Go calls for January, so it will be getting some work in January. Winter Cabin. This one's still in the Q-snap because you can see all of it. That's where I am so far. If you've done a Dimensions Gold kit, you know that a lot of that is tent stitch. Some of it done with more than 2 strands of yarn, 3 and 4 strands of yarn. I'm doing that on the called for, the kit, Ada, and everything. Next, my goal for that for 2022 is 5,000 stitches, Winter Cabin. Next is the Wool Shop, which is a Heaven and Earth Designs. The artist is Lucy Pittaway. This is still in the Q-snap. And because that's full cover, that's where I am. It's just sky with little snow. That's a snowflake. That's actually stitched. It's a snowflake. Full coverage, so my goal for that is 5,000 stitches. And now we're getting into the ones that you have never seen before. These are ones that I have started since I recorded my last episode. This is Moonlight Sampler. Did I show you my last bag? I didn't show you. Winter Cabin is in a Lynn X Stitch Creates bag that's Christmas, which obviously Winter Cabin, it's not Christmas, but I have more Christmas bags than I have Christmas projects. This is in a Lynn X Stitch Creates bag, which is another one of her quarterly bags from last year. This one was the summer bag, I'm pretty sure, with the fireflies. Actually, I think that bright one I showed earlier, I think that was the first quarter one. Anyway, this is Moonlight Sampler by the Blue Flower. And I love this pattern. I could not wait for this to come out in PDF so I could have it in PDF. And it finally did. So that's where I am. This is a 40 count fabric, I believe. So I'm doing it 1/1. Not 1/1, 1/2. My goal for that for 2022 is 3,000 stitches. because I love it enough to do more than 2,000. This is another one by the same, oh, you know what? I know where to find. This is by the same person, but I think it has a thread bit in here. Gamma's Treasures. That's who made the, that's who at least made this one and the Route 66 bag, and I think also made the black one with the yellow that I couldn't think of who made it before. I'm pretty sure she made that one too. This is Reindeer Games by Erica Michaels. I am doing the part that's in the frame. And if you watched my 26A and heard me talk about my cross stitch stand, this one is in one of the where I've already extended to an 8x11 frame. So that's what I've done so far. Plug that light out behind. You can see it's gotten dark outside. So, and my goal for that for 2022 is 2,000 stitches, which I think will get me close to finish, so I may finish that one. This is when I only have hard copy only, so I don't know exactly how many stitches are in it, because, you know, the height by width stitch count isn't the same, it's not full coverage. So, if anybody's curious, for my hard copy patterns that I don't have in PDF, I actually scan them and do it on my iPad with GoodNotes, so that I doesn't like find stitches and stuff the way Pattern Keeper does, but I can highlight where I am. And also what I like mainly, the reason I like digital patterns mainly, other than being able to use them in Pattern Keeper, is I like the ability to zoom in and see the symbols better, because I'm getting old and my vision's getting not so good. So I just highlight. I'll do a section that I can follow. Oops, sorry, I'm shaking the table. Section that I can, you know, follow mentally, and then I'll highlight the stitches, and I'll actually count them as I highlight, so I can keep stitch counts. So the next one, this is Lynx Stitch Creates. This is 4th quarter bag. Was Christmas, and this is Dancer, which is by Barbara Ann Designs. This was in what's the name of that? Punch Needle and Primitive magazine for the winter edition. I'm doing this on Be Stitch Me Fabric Stonehenge, because I just happen to have that on here. I am, where is my stitching? I haven't done much, but where is it? Trying to figure out what part that is, because I've put a picture up. I don't have an actual picture. I can't figure out where this is Dancer, Barbara Ann Designs. I'm doing a sulky conversion, so I can't at the moment figure out which way that goes. Well, let's see. I start top left, so that should be that way, but it might be that way. No, you would have to be that way, because I start top left. And I'm obviously not going to need this giant piece of fabric for this pattern. It's actually kind of small, but I think I just started top left and figured I'd cut it off after I did it. So I think that's upright. Don't ask me to tell you right now exactly what any of that is. It's part of the reindeer's face. And I am working on a sulky conversion for this. I'm not sure. I'm working on assigning the colors, but I'll show you kind of, if I can show you kind of my color palette. I, last year when they were on sale, bought basically a full set of the Sulky Petites. So I basically just kind of pulled out ones that looked like they'd be the right color to me, and I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. And my goal for this, for WIP Go for 2022, is to actually finish it, because it's not that big. Okay. And then next one, this is also in a brass button bag. Just a pretty... Pulling out... This is Winter Rose Manor by Brenda Gervais with the needle and thread. I am, it's not really, this is not my common style, but the more I saw, I just love this pattern for some reason. I don't know. And I have just done a little start on this. I am doing this on, I think it's XJU Design Baby Bunny, maybe? No, milk coffee or milk chocolate. Check out the spreadsheet below if you need to know what it is. It is, I'm pretty sure it's XJU Design. And I'm doing that with the Called For gloss. And then the last thing I've started is not actually on my WIP Go board, is I am doing a temperature chart for 2022, and I'm doing Christie's Corner 2022 temperature bookshelf, because I want to be like Pam from Stitching in the Land of Good Enough and Steph from Just Keep Stitching. So I have, this is in, I think this is Lynn X Stitches Creates Sock Monkey bag. I have started the bookshelf for this in preparation for January. So obviously I can't do the books. Well, the color of the books changes based on the temperature of the day, high temperature of the day. And I obviously can't do that till January, but I'm getting like the bookshelf set up for that. The fabric, this is a piece of Jody fabric, I think. Yeah, this is a piece of Jody fabric from her club, which I'm getting ready to sadly cancel. So if anybody's hoping to get off the wait list, hopefully you'll get in. I'm getting too much fabric, so I've got to stop for a while. I'm doing this all in DMC, but I kind of created my own color shades. The pattern gives you what she did for Mississippi, and she uses DMCs, but to me they were very primary colors, and I wanted something a little less primary, if that makes any sense. I'm still doing like the cool blues and greens and light purples for the colder colors, and the warmer, reds and oranges and deeper purples for the higher temperatures. But I kind of came up with my own. So those are my, that's up to 68 degrees. And this is a warmer temperatures. So starting coldest to warm, coldest to warm. So my hottest will be like that. And I've done my chart kind of based on North Carolina temperatures, and from where I've done temperature blankets in the past, where it was like my highest color is 96 degrees or above. So, because while it's not unusual for us to have, 97, 98, even 99, we rarely go over 100. And the last couple of years, I don't know that we've gone over 100 at all for the high temperature, but I could be wrong. So that's the last thing I've started. No WIP Go goal for that, because I plan to work on that. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to pick one day a week to catch up, or I want to try to stay up with this pretty well, at least kind of weekly. But on the other hand, it's like 20 stitches per book or something. And so I know I'm not going to do it daily, because, I'll want to do more. So I tend to let a few days build up. So I think what I'm going to try to do is weekly, and which will probably be maybe Sundays. And I will also add a length of the bookshelf, the bookcase, every time I work on it. And there are a few little odds and ends throughout the bookshelf that are kind of themed, like in October, I think there's a skull for Halloween, and there's a, like in January, I think there's like a Fabergé egg looking thing and stuff like that. So I will add a length of either the bookcase or work on one of those things at least a little bit each week as I catch up on the books. And then the last thing that is on my WIP Go board but is not actually started yet because it's going to be my New Year, New Start, is I am starting Pandemic by Long Dog Samplers. So I thought I'd show you. This is Scrabble Bag by Gamma's Treasures. I had to get this after Pam from Just Keep Stitching showed one. And I am doing this. This is how I ordered some stuff from Hobby House Needleworks. And they send each one of their fabrics in these little paper bags with it labeled. So I'm doing it on, I'm not going to open that because it'll make a bunch of noise, but it is 40 count antique white Zweigart is what I'm doing it on. And I am going to do it, I'm going to do this 1/2 in Silks for You. And my primary color is going to be PR 147, which is a bright blue variegated. As you can see, there's a little bit darker. That's not, my phone's not showing it. This section right here is a little, got more green in it. It's more of a blue-green. And then I have 2 smaller skeins of PR 123, which are a little bit lighter than the blue-green in the bigger skein. And again, my phone, I'm using my phone. My camera's not going to show up the right color. But I may do, sporadically, I may do a few of the little animals and stuff like that in that to have a little bit more pops of the lighter, brighter. We'll see once I start sewing, stitching with this. I've got to chunk this up so that it's usable and get that all ready to start New Year's Day. But my goal for that for 2022 for WIP Go is to get 10% done. Which I can't remember how many stitches. I think is more than 5,000 stitches. But I can't remember exactly. So anyway, that's all my cross stitch WIPs. Like I said, I'm planning to kind of like do a year-long rotation so that even the things that get called in WIP Go, not till like November or December, will have gotten work at that point. And hopefully I will be able to meet all those goals. If not, it's not the end of the world. I'm really close to a blackout for 2021, except for December. I've done my WIP Go 2021 board. I did monthly goals that I wanted to achieve that month in the month they were called. And as fate would have it, I had 2 blocks on my WIP Go that were for 2021 start projects. In other words, not necessarily a new start, but projects that I started in 2021 that when I did my WIP Go board at the end of 2020, I didn't know I would necessarily have. And my goal for both of those was 5 days. At the beginning, once the WIP Go numbers for December were called, the 2 projects I picked for that were Reindeer Games and Dancer. Because I started Dancer December 1st. And I started Reindeer Games, I think, a little before that. I have done 4 out of 5 days on Reindeer Games, but I haven't touched Dancer again since I started. So, and obviously today is the 29th. There's only 2 days left after today in December. So it's impossible for me to do 4 more days on Dancer. I may get the 1 more day on Reindeer Games. I probably will. But I'm not going to totally get a blackout. I will probably be 1, maybe 2 squares shy of it. But anyway, I had not set rewards for myself. It was more just about getting the goals done, and I'm okay with that. So anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed seeing all my WIPs, and I would appreciate it if you have any feedback or any comments you want to make below. I love to hear comments. And hopefully I will see you again before too long. Bye, y'all.